A storm is brewing. The internet is paralyzed. Navigation is chaotic. These signs are not accidental. They reveal a power struggle that could change the history of China. Do you dare to uncover the dark truth behind it? Or will you ignore it and regret it when everything explodes? A technological earthquake shook the capital Beijing on August 12th and 13th, 2025. The internet was suddenly disconnected. People could not access any websites. The GPS system became completely disordered. These signs were not simply ordinary technical failures. They were like a silent warning of an approaching power battle. All lines pointed to a single location, the Beijing Conference. This is where China's top leaders gather to decide the fate of the country. This year's conference lasted exactly 2 weeks, from August 1st to 14th, coinciding strangely with the network incident. Here, a fierce internal conflict erupted. The faction that once supported Xi Jinping, specifically the close group of former leader Jiang, led by Zheng Qinghong, suddenly turned their backs decisively. Previously, they accepted a temporary compromise, retaining some remaining power. But this time, they firmly demanded his complete resignation, from General Secretary to President, and even Chairman of the Central Military Commission. This betrayal was like a sharp knife in the back. The alliance between Xi and Jiang's faction had delivered powerful blows, defeating political opponents over many years. But now Xi was isolated on a brutal battlefield, without solid backing. Could he survive politically after this Beijing conference? The question hung heavily in the tense air. What caused Jiang's faction to change so suddenly? Who really holds the decisive cards in the covert power game at Zhongnanhai? To understand better, we need to look back in time and examine the history of this faction. Jiang's faction originated during Jiang Zemin's rule in the 1990s, with a vast network of interests, from state-owned enterprises to the military. They were once a dominant force. But when Xi took power in 2012, he launched an anti-corruption campaign targeting this very network. A series of high-ranking officials fell, such as Zhou Yongkang, sentenced to life imprisonment in 2015, and Xu Chaihu, investigated in 2014. These strikes not only eliminated opponents, but also consolidated Xi's personal power. However, Jiang's faction did not disappear completely. They retreated into the shadows, waiting for a chance to counterattack. And the 2025 Beijing Conference was their moment to rise again, with Zheng Qinghong as the leader. He was once vice president and Jiang Zemin's right-hand man, now representing disgruntled elders demanding Xi's departure, leaving no room for compromise. This shift stemmed from accumulated dissatisfaction, economic downturn, trade conflicts with the U.S., and strict pandemic policies that enraged the public. Jiang's faction saw this as the ideal time to turn the tide. But will they succeed, or only plunge China into deeper chaos? And can you imagine? A mysterious fog enveloped the entire capital. A mysterious fog covered Beijing for 2 days in mid-August. Residents were confused as the internet was completely paralyzed. Phones could not connect to the outside world. Digital payments were abruptly interrupted. But most surprisingly, the GPS system showed locations thousands of kilometers off, displaying Chengdu, far away, instead of Chaoyang district. What lies behind this strange phenomenon? Less than a month remained before the October 1st, 2025 military parade. Many believed this was the beginning of an unprecedented security campaign. According to commentator Zhang Ba, 3 scenarios were being carefully considered. 1. A large-scale anti-riot drill. The government feared uprisings from the populace, similar to those that occurred in Jiangsu or Sichuan in previous years. It may repeat exactly during the parade. It seriously affects the image of the regime. Second, a sharp internal warning, especially to figures opposing General Secretary Xi Jinping. In the context of fierce struggles at Zhongnanhai, the network signal is not just a simple tactic, but the first strike against the opposition faction. Third, Beijing experienced a serious incident on August 13th. Although on the surface the Beidaihe conference remained peaceful as in previous years, behind the scenes was an unprecedented power struggle in modern history between Xi's faction and the increasingly strong opposition forces. Commentator Tang Jingyuan emphasized that GPS interference is not purely technical, but a clear sign that this year's parade carries a profound political message closely linked to what is happening in Beidaihe. In fact, Beijing has used similar strategies during the annual two sessions, or in unstable regions like Xinjiang and Tibet, when power is directly challenged. Cutting off the network is not a temporary solution, but a survival test for China's political system. Amid the false calm of the conference, an underground storm is sweeping away all power calculations at Zhongnanhai. To clarify further, we need to consider the current socio-economic context. China's economy is facing a severe recession. GDP growth is only about 5% in 2024, below the target. Youth unemployment is at a record high. The real estate market has collapsed, with Evergrande as a symbol. These issues have shaken confidence in Xi's leadership. The opposition exploits this to attack, claiming the prolonged zero-COVID policy caused enormous damage. Millions isolated, economic stagnation, and now accumulated public dissatisfaction ready to erupt at any spark. Therefore, cutting off the network is a way to control information and prevent rumor spread, but it also exposes the government's weakness. And can you imagine? The Jiang faction suddenly withdrew support, turning the entire chessboard upside down in an unimaginable way. According to analyst Tang Jingyuan, at least 3 separate sources confirmed the same shocking development. The Jiang faction officially withdrew support for Xi Jinping. Old pillars like Zheng Qinghong and Zhang Dezhang have now completely turned their backs, demanding Xi withdraw from the entire leadership system. No more compromises, no retention of power even partially, only a comprehensive demand for immediate resignation. This sudden change is no coincidence. It opposes the rise of the reform group, especially figures like Wang Yang. If political reform truly happens, all their interests will vanish like a sponge. Initially, they believed keeping Xi was the best way to protect their remaining power, but now their trust has dried up beyond repair. The main cause is the anti-corruption campaign initiated by Xi since 2013, which mercilessly swallowed the Jiang faction's network. Tu Zhaohui in 2014, Zhou Yongkang in 2015, Guo Boxiong in 2016, Sun Zhengkai in 2017. Each year, a pillar was ruthlessly toppled. The next predicted target is Zheng Qinghong, former vice president and Jiang Zemin's right-hand man. After that, nothing can stop the advance toward Jiang Zemin, the last symbol of the old power still holding covert influence. If this happens, Zhongnanhai will lose its surface calm. The battle between 2 generations of power, Xi and the Jiang faction, has entered an unavoidable life-or-death finale. To understand more deeply, we need to look at Zheng Qinghong's role. Born in 1939, he began his career in Shanghai, where Jiang Zemin was once mayor. The two built a close alliance. When Jiang rose to power, Zheng was rapidly promoted to vice president from 2003 to 2008. After retirement, he maintained influence through a network of protégés. Now he represents elders like Wen Jiabao and Hu Jintao, demanding Xi's resignation, not just for personal interests, but also fearing system collapse if dictatorship continues. The Jiang faction sees Xi as having broken the unwritten rules by abolishing term limits in 2018, shaking the collective leadership foundation established by Deng Xiaoping. Now they want to restore it. But will Xi easily step aside or counterattack with the military? What do you think if the army suddenly intervenes, changing everything in the blink of an eye? The power struggle at Zhongnanhai has never been this fierce. Xi Jinping was once enthusiastically supported by Jiang's faction. He rose to the top on the condition that he would not touch the old vested interests. He used that peace to subtly consolidate the entire system. When the military purge in 2023 erupted strongly, this time it did not target surface-level corruption, but cut off the influence of other factions within the military. He placed trusted people in the most crucial positions, and what was destined to happen could not be avoided. Jiang, a general who was once loyal out of fear, now fiercely betrayed. Not only protecting himself, he connected with old guard elders like Hu Jintao, Wen Jiabao, Li Ruihuan, and Liu Yuan to form a solid front against Xi Jinping. Amid the tense stalemate, Xi wisely took a step back, announcing a health recovery after rumors of serious illness, holding on to power with a promise to return stronger. Developments at Beijing shattered all old calculations. Zheng Qinghong, once Jiang's number 2, suddenly made a spectacular turnaround. With no more allies, he represented the elders in drafting a letter demanding Xi Jinping immediately relinquish all power. The letter was delivered by Zheng Taiji, Xi's closest confidant for a long time, but the message was as clear as a knife: no more internal support. Tuo Wang revealed details. The Beidaihe meeting no longer discussed things peacefully, but issued a sharp political ultimatum. The situation was completely isolated, support was fading, the military deeply divided. Xi Jinping was surrounded on all sides with no way out. Is there any path other than a smooth retreat? Or is this the beginning of a bloody chess game at Zhongnanhai? To analyze deeply, let's look at who Jiang is. Born in 1953, he is a senior general, vice chairman of the Central Military Commission, once trusted by Xi Jinping because his father, Jiang Zongxun, was an old comrade of Xi's father. But this relationship is now fractured. Jiang is dissatisfied with the military purge, where many generals were toppled, such as Fang Fenghui in 2017. He sees the military being politicized and losing combat capability. Now he connects with Liu Yuan, son of Liu Shaoqi, to form a strong military alliance. They represent the military faction, demanding Xi's removal, restoration of military discipline, and an end to blind loyalty. This betrayal is like a bomb explosion because the military is Xi Jinping's last power base. And now imagine, a letter unexpectedly changes everything, shaking the entire system. In a surprising move that shook the international political scene, the letter signed by Zheng Qinghong on behalf of the elders was personally delivered to Xi Jinping with a message as clear as crystal: resign immediately without hesitation. Commentator Tong Jingyuan revealed details. This preemptive strike stemmed from an extremely dangerous development. The military quietly moved into Beijing when armed force was no longer firmly in hand, and all privileges could no longer be maintained. The letter contained 3 key points that made the elders completely lose patience. Their descendants no longer arranged high positions in the party as before. The unwritten rules were thoroughly abolished by Xi Jinping. Trusted secretaries of the elders, if still in power, were ruthlessly purged. The secretary protection mechanism, once the traditional shield of the old faction, was now completely neutralized. Meanwhile, Wang Yang, the most prominent reformist figure, made unprecedented tough demands to organize a re-election of the entire Politburo and Standing Committee at the 4th plenary session in October 2025. Establish strict leadership term limits, tighter term mechanisms, restore collective leadership to end autocratic personal decision-making, thoroughly reform internal elections, require candidates to debate and answer public questioning before the whole party, anonymous voting to avoid pressure, and a candidate quota exceeding 30% of the number to be elected. Wang Yang affirms that this is not a personal attack, but a return to the correct institutional foundation from the time of Deng Xiaoping. The situation has completely reversed and is beyond salvage. The Jiang faction has turned their backs fiercely. The reform faction is continuously pressuring. The military is no longer neutral. The encirclement is closing tightly around Xi from all directions. The reason for all these shocking changes is sharply concluded by Tang Jingyuan. There is only one thing that unites all factions, that the military is no longer in Xi's hands. A military upheaval is unfolding in the deep shadows, but its echoes have reached the center of power in Zhongnanhai. To clarify, Wang Yang was born in 1955, once served as vice premier and chairman of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference. He represents the reform faction, supports a market economy, and advocates reducing state control. Now he calls for intra-party democracy and open debate, something unprecedented in the history of the Chinese Communist Party. If successful, it will completely change the way power operates. No more eternal supreme leadership, but healthy competition. However, Xi's faction sees this as a threat that could lead to chaos like the Soviet Union's collapse in 1991. So who will win this battle? Are you ready to witness the military overturning the chessboard with unbelievable moves? The 82nd Group Army, an elite and powerful unit under the Central Military Region, has officially taken over the defense of Beidaihe and the entire vast Beijing area. Behind this force is Jiang, a general long close to Xi, but now emerging as a strong symbol of internal military resistance. According to tradition, Beidaihe, where secret meetings between elders and party leaders are held, has always been protected by the Central Security Bureau under Xi's control. But now, all control has shifted to an independent military. This is a clear signal of distrust toward Xi's close security apparatus. Tang Jingyuan deeply observes that whenever elite troops enter Beijing, something extremely serious is happening behind the scenes. He recalls two important historical milestones. June 4, 1989, when the military entered the capital leading to the Tiananmen crackdown that shocked the world, and March 19, 2012, when amid Zhou Yongkang's secret coup attempt, the military and armed police confronted each other at the Xinhua news agency gate. Zhou's forces besieged the power center, but the 38th Army was deployed timely, neutralizing the plot with swift and decisive military action. This time, the commander is Jiang, who not only commands the most elite forces, but also holds a crucial role in the current power structure. If the military completely changes direction, political games will no longer be fought in the legislature, but will enter a phase of sophisticated, controlled mutiny. The October 1st military parade, seemingly a major event of the Chinese Communist Party to showcase military strength, is in reality just a stage, masking a large-scale power reversal quietly unfolding in the heart of the capital. To analyze, Jiang was once an ally of Xi, but grew discontented after the 2023 purge when many generals like Li Shangfu were dismissed. He saw the military weakened, focusing more on political loyalty than combat capability. Now he represents the military faction calling for Xi's resignation. The military will be loyal to the country, not to an individual. This recalls Deng Xiaoping's words. The party commands the gun, not the gun commands the party. But in reality, now the gun is speaking. And if you think stability is an illusion, keep watching. The military moves will astonish you. According to Tang Jingyuan's analysis, although Xi Jinping has been gradually stripped of military command, he is still allowed to preside over the parade merely to create an illusion of stability for the world and the domestic population. Meanwhile, Jiang and Liu Yuan, two key figures in the anti-Xi faction, have implemented a comprehensive military plan under the guise of parade preparations. The 82nd Army Group tightly controls downtown Beijing. The 39th Army Group swapped positions with the 81st Army Group, surrounding the entire suburban area. They established a strategic blockade with no gaps. This change was not a routine redeployment, but a carefully designed military structure to crush any reaction from Xi Jinping's faction. Jiang no longer trusts his old unit. Handing control of the perimeter to the 39th Army Group shows unprecedented high alert. The overall picture is as clear as day. The capital, Beijing, is militarily blockaded from all sides. There is no official declaration of martial law, but in reality, all movements and decisions are under the control of military forces loyal to the anti-Xi faction. The parade event, instead of symbolizing unity, has become a cover to conceal a modern military coup power transfer. In the theory of the Chinese Communist Party, the party has absolute control over the military. But history always proves the opposite. Whenever there is a major political upheaval, the gun ultimately determines the final outcome. After Xi Jinping was isolated and lost military power, he still tried to cling to influence by all means, declaring full recovery of his health and warning that if he resigned immediately, internal chaos would ensue and the country would plunge into irreparable disorder. However, on the other side, Liu Yuan and Jiang Yuxi had already read the cunning move. Commentator Tang Jingyuan deeply commented that if one person's future is threatened, then the entire system is no longer stable in the present. This assessment reflects the military faction's resolute attitude, and the mastermind behind all calculations is none other than Liu Yuan, a man with ample experience shaping political chess games and using the military as the ultimate bargaining tool. According to reliable internal sources, Xi Jinping tried to delay the Fourth Central Committee meeting, hoping to turn the tide with remaining support from Li Qiang. In response, Liu Yuan wisely left the capital, not as a cowardly retreat, but to avoid a preemptive strike from Xi's faction and to deploy necessary military steps in advance. Jiang Yuxi stayed behind to guard, while Liu Yuan moved strategically. Both divided key positions, one commanding troops directly, the other managing covert plans. They did not wait for Xi to act first, but launched a decisive preemptive strike. Now the barrel of the gun points at the old center of power. There is no thunderous explos. When Jiang Yuxi tightly controlled the inner city and Liu Yuan coordinated the General Bureau at the Fourth Central Committee meeting, 3 sharp demands were launched by Liu Jinjian like a blade cutting off Xi Jinping's retreat. Demand 1. Xi Jinping must resign immediately. No vague hints, no more evasion. Liu Yuan demanded that Xi officially step down from General Secretary and Chairman of the Central Military Commission. Concentrating power indefinitely has brought the system to a deadly deadlock. Now is the time for Xi to retreat, protect his personal honor, and keep his last shred of dignity. Demand 2. Re-elect the Politburo and the Standing Committee comprehensively. Liu Yuan declared support for Hu Jintao and Wen Jiabao and strongly proposed that personnel decisions no longer be a dirty power game. It is time for transparent and legal elections according to strict party regulations. This is the way to end a dynasty led by personal loyalty and restore the collective mechanism that has been the backbone of the system since ancient times. Demand 3. Wang Yang to take over as General Secretary. The successor to power is none other than Wang Yang, who is youthful, reform-minded, and capable of coordinating crises. Wang is the only one who can regulate international stability, maintain political stability, and uphold defense orientation during this critical period. Liu Yuan concluded with a statement as cold as ice. The military is ready to escort the new leadership to protect the path of reform. And a phrase that left a heavy historical echo. If we do not act today, future generations will bear incalculable consequences. Do not let them take responsibility for us. The prophecy of Thoi Boi Do is no longer vague fortune-telling. Zhang Yaogong and Liu Jinjian have clearly appeared. One holds firm military power, the other wields a sharp sword. And now both decisively act on behalf of history. Will Xi Jinping accept a smooth retreat, or is there a spectacular reversal? The answer remains to be seen. But to broaden the perspective, Thoi Boi Do is a prophetic book from the Qing dynasty predicting many events such as the Xinhai Revolution and World Wars. Now Chinese netizens use it to decode the present. The character Gong in Jiang Yuxi's name and Jian in Liu Yuan's name are seen as signs of major change, not just superstition, but reflecting social dissatisfaction. Rumors spread despite strict censorship show Xi's power is shaky. Now imagine the consequences if Xi resigns. Global economic shock, changes in U.S.-China relations, China possibly entering a reform era or falling into civil chaos. These are things we need to ponder. To continue the story, we need to explore more about the reform faction led by Wang Yang. He was once Guangdong Party secretary, promoting economic reform. Now at the conference, he criticized Xi Jinping for 8 major mistakes: personal autocracy, violating term limits, economic imbalance, breaking laws, failed epidemic control, diplomatic isolation, excessive social management, and family traditions influencing the party. He called for political reform, intra-party democracy, and competitive elections. This resembles Deng Xiaoping's proposals in the 1980s, but Xi reversed them by removing term limits and concentrating power. The reform faction sees this path as leading to ruin, like the Soviet Union. They support Wang Yang to replace Xi. Li Qiang initially supported Xi, but now shows signs of wavering. According to some sources, Li Qiang emphasizes achievements like the Belt and Road Initiative and anti-corruption, but warns of internal division leading to collapse like the USSR. However, the military faction is more resolute. Represented by Jiang, they say Xi is no longer fit to lead after 12 years of mistakes, diplomatic isolation, economic decline, authoritarian politics, military misdevelopment, social conflicts, promoting nepotism. The military declares it will not obey orders, loyal to the country, setting a deadline of December 2025. Otherwise, they will take military action. General Gao Gangxuan criticized Xi as a malignant tumor in the military, eroding values, reducing combat effectiveness, promoting based on loyalty, not ability. He calls for removing this influence and restoring discipline. Wen Jiabao expressed concern, criticizing failed economic policies, Belt and Road debt, pandemic policies, calling the 20th Party Congress an illegal coup, proposing resignation at the 4th Central Committee meeting, restoring term limits, and establishing an Elder Advisory Committee. These statements exploded at the conference. Factions are divided. Maoist Reds following Jiang Zemin, Reform faction Wang Yang, Conservative faction Hu Xuanhua, Military faction Zhang Yuxi, and Liu Yuan. They prepare for the 21st Congress in 2027 with personnel changes, such as replacing Xiang Xinji with Ming Fa. The military may monitor Xi, restrict movement, communication, and media. A special task force led by Zhang Yuxi. If Xi resigns due to health, as rumored, this is difficult due to tight control, but pressure is increasing. From the arrest of Han Shiming, Xi's advisor by the Military Disciplinary Commission, not the party committee, showing the military is out of party control. The Sydney accident involving Xi's granddaughter, exposing trillion-dollar assets, damaging integrity image. The Jiang violence turning into protests against Xi. Factions exploiting this, like Ding Tietiang, Kai Chi, Wang Xiaohong fighting. Beijing garrison forces changing loyalty, no longer mentioning Xi but shifting to Zhang Yuxi. 4 strikes in a week weaken Xi. The October 4th Central Committee meeting deciding personnel could force Xi to resign or share power like Deng Xiaoping, keeping honor but losing real power. The October military parade may be a sign. If new generals are not loyal to Xi, change is clear. The prophecy comes true with Zhang Yaogong and Liu Jinjian predicting conflict not on the table, but on the ground. The military is ready to protect the new leadership and reform. If no action is taken, consequences for future generations. This is not fortune-telling, but political reality. Will Xi accept or overturn? We wait and see. Dear viewers, this is the end of the video. Thank you for your attention and watching. Please like, share, And subscribe to the Global Panorama channel to receive notifications of new videos. See you again.